we're watching this movie. It's called In Our Mind Reality, but it's just a movie. And the problem is that we forgot that was a movie and we have no popcorn. So that's not a good
That's right.
combination.
Welcome, everyone. It's my honor and great joy to welcome Anam Thubten to our conversation today. Hi, Anam.
Hello. Thank you for the invitation. Nice to see you again here.
Yes, it's so wonderful. I just seeing your face and I just feel your presence. And reading your words as I've been doing in your recent books. I just resonate. I'm always saying yes, yes.
Yeah, happy to hear that.
Yes, yeah. So I've really enjoyed meeting you a few years ago, and you were so generous to read my books and to give such wonderful endorsements. And every time I read your books, if any students of mine ask, I've read your books, what else do I read? And then I very often will send them to your books, because I feel like you're really like an ideal translator for our contemporary times, because you live it and you understand what it is that you come from a rich history and training, and then you really bring into modern language, making it easy to begin to understand things that can be esoteric.
Yeah, that's my intention, and also you are, in that sense, wonderful translator, interpreter of all these profound ancient teachings, and you're doing wonderful job through writing books. Yeah, my intention is to use more contemporary language to interpret those traditional teachings, which are so profound. They're like the Amrita, the medicine to the heart.
Yes.
And I always wish that people in the West would have access to those traditional teachings, such as like Dzogchen,
Yes.
and no barrier, no language barrier.
Mhm.
Sometimes the language can be very much the barrier, as well
Yeah.
as also culture too.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, you're willing to give it direct access to awakening and our true nature, which you say beautifully is already here equally within each of us. So that Dzogchen approach is so important today. We have a lot of Buddhism and mindfulness and some of the Vipassana, Theravada, some Zen, but I really want to kind of dive in today with you to some of the Dzogchen illuminations and the bodhicitta, the heart awakening. That's not just the absence of everything, but the fullness and the including of the wake phenomena, all phenomena being awake, and the recognition, realization of that. So I'd love to explore that as much as as we can in words.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Dzogchen is such a profound teaching and also practice. On the other hand, it can be extremely simple too.
Mm.
Recently, somebody sent me this video clip of a very extraordinary Dharma teacher, Dzogchen master.
Mm.
His name is Khampo Jigme Phunso, who passed away quite a long time ago. He was the founder of the largest Buddhist monastery in the world, the Warongar in eastern Tibet. Anyway, in that video clip, he was encouraging everybody to practice Dzogchen. In the old days, the Dzogchen was regarded as a very esoteric, mystical by even Tibetans. But then, when you really get in the heart of it, it's a simple, unbelievably simple, and yet it is a profound. And therefore, I didn't have so much any reservation to write a book that you're talking about, the digital awareness, a commentary on the Jigme Lampa's Dzogchen aspirational prayer. And because I felt that my lineage is given me permission to write about it and to talk about it. I also hold Kamo Jigme pencil and such in high regard, and so I felt that he is giving me permission, and many of us permission, to teach the Dzogchen through the blessings of the lineage. And so it seems that this is like a Dzogchen time right now, like Dzogchen era, because Dzogchen is the heart of Buddhism, but it's not so much shrouded in lots of concepts and dogmas, and there's a kind almost timelessness in it, and it has a universal appeal. And so if we are able to just interpret these traditional teachings with the more modern and contemporary language, and then perhaps lots of people would benefit from it.
Yes, beautiful. Yeah, so the themes I would like to touch on are many. So, but I'll just say a little bit, and then we can dive in. But I'd love to touch on perhaps the most unique aspect of Vajrayana, but particularly Dzogchen, is Rigpa. So awake awareness,
right?
Yeah, and build on emptiness from the Theravada to the Mahayana to the understanding of emptiness that reveals awake awareness or nature of mind, not just the absence of emptiness, which some people think. And then to really touch on the emptiness that starts out as deconstructing and then shows the interdependence of all things, interconnectedness, and then the awake consciousness that is who we are and where we can be aware from, and then the flowering of the heart or compassion. Because I think those things, the carrying through of emptiness from its origin through its fullness, through its interdependence, and then requires Rigpa, be awake awareness, be recognized, but then not stopping at either the absence or just pure awareness, but coming into one taste and into ultimate bodhicitta, or ground of loving heart mind. Yes, is that that's a lot?
Yeah, right. I mean, you put perfectly. I don't know whether I have to say anything, because what you said is just a perfect illumination of the heart of the Dzogchen. You're right. As you pointed out, that there's this whole almost process of a negation in the Buddhist tradition. I think that's quite important, because as human beings, we are very much attached to all these ideas, concepts about reality, and often our concepts about reality is quite erroneous, and therefore we are kind of bound by this illusion or matrix that we created, and that the matrix or the edifice, that illusory edifice of the reality that we all are kind of believing is really a kind of trap, like a mental trap.
Yes.
And therefore, in the process of negation, we began to deconstruct all this mind manufactured reality, like even the self is a illusion. There's no really self. If we continue to inquire into the nature of self, there's no self. Pretty much, I would say 90 or maybe even more % of the reality that we're believing is it turned out to be some kind of mind manufactured reality. It's like we are watching movie in our head. Like imagine that our head is a movie theater and we are only the person who is sitting there in the theater, and we're watching this movie. It's called in our mind reality, but it's just a movie. And the problem is that we forgot that was a movie and we have no popcorns, so that's not a good
That's right.
combination.
Yes,
And
yes, and that negation. So the negation is so important, as you say, and it's, traditionally the preliminary practice of emptiness in most Buddhist traditions, to see that we're
yeah,
trapped,
right.
we're identified, we're caught in we have an ignorant view, and then we deconstruct and see, oh, it's a movie, it's just changing thoughts, feelings, and sensations. There's no solid self-emptiness, and then we can even see other emptiness,
Yeah,
that the world is not
right.
solid. But then sometimes people stop there, and they like, oh, and now I see that nothing exists and it's empty of self, there's no self. But then we come to interdependence, which is, oh, wait a minute, there's no separate thing, but it's not nihilism, right?
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I think people can get lost in that negation. That's the problem. The process of negation has a role in our spiritual practice, especially in the beginning. But then we don't want to spend the rest of our life just negating. I think the whole purpose of negation in the spiritual path is to kind of deconstruct the illusion that we created. But then I think once we are kind of done that work, then we should even go beyond it. Otherwise, we can get lost in negation. We can get kind of lost in the wrong notion of emptiness, or in the wrong notion of no self, which is a form of subtle nihilism. And I think not only that, it can have a negative impact on our mind and heart in a way that we become maybe kind of a little bit stoic and not in a good way. Oh, nothing is real, everything's illusion. And we may even lose our ability to just appreciate, enjoy the delight, the magic of existence.
Yes.
And therefore, as the traditional Buddhist teachings encourage us, that eventually we kind of have to almost outgrow that negation, and then come to this realization that it's more than just empty, and then there's a life around us, which is extraordinary. But I think we can enjoy then the life and the delights of life, not from the primordial ignorance, which is this very powerful, almost like perception that I'm separate from everything else. But we will be able to experience the whole life, just even this moment. When I say life, I'm not talking about whole life, but even this moment, like sound, taste, touch, whatever movement is happening from more non-egoic mind, which is often called the bodhicitta. The bodhicitta in Mahayana Buddhism is regarded as this ultimate bodhicitta. Well, there's relative bodhicitta, but the ultimate bodhicitta is like this awakened mind, nondual mind. In the Dzogchen, like for example, Longchenpa, he used that term quite a lot, bodhicitta. But then when he used it, actually he is using the term bodhicitta to describe this awakened consciousness. And therefore, readers might like to kind of notice that sometimes the bodhicitta and Mahayana writings, and then bodhicitta, the word that Longchenpa uses, have a slightly different flavor. And basically, when he said bodhicitta in his writings, he's talking about this very awakened mind who is full of love and compassion, but also there's nondual wisdom in that. And I think I'm glad that you mentioned the Rigpa,
Yeah.
the word Rigpa. That is perhaps the most essential term.
Yes.
If anybody want to pick up one word from Dzogchen, that will be Rigpa. And I think Dzogchen and Rigpa are totally indispensable.
Yeah.
In accordance with the Longchenpa's teachings, the Dzogchen means great completion. And the meaning of that is if we reside in that awakened mind, that non-egoic mind, then it's not like suddenly everything becomes empty. We don't see, we don't feel anything, or we lose any kind of appreciation to life because we are in this kind of nihilistic, stoic state of mind. But instead, we feel that our heart is just opening wide and our consciousness expanding. And so we began to see that there's no separation between self and the rest of the world, but we also see that everything that one is experiencing is actually almost a display of one's own awakened mind. Or in other words, everything is complete within Rigpa, which means that as you're residing in the Rigpa, then you experience that everything is a display of Rigpa, which is your own Buddha mind. And so you're able to actually embrace everything, the whole expression of life in each and every moment, rather than rejecting. You're able to just enjoy everything. And even Vajrayana, they teach that if we can reside in such a state of mind, we are able to see the sacredness in everything.
Yes, that's it.
Sacredness in form, in sound, in taste, in touch.
Yes, because there's when we go from the conditioned mind to the unconditioned, pure awareness, we're free of fear, and we access that dimension that is unimpeded. But then I think some people also kind of hang out almost not even in a stoic, but almost in a detached, dissociated way in pure awareness, as if non-dual awareness is the end. I am in awareness. There's nobody here named Loch. There's no self. There's just awareness. There's no fear. And I'll just walk around like this. But it seems the next realization, the fullness, is the one taste, that the non-dual is not just pure awareness, but it is awareness and appearance. It is awareness and phenomena are not two, like ocean and wave. Yeah.
Yeah, as the Hartustra says, form is emptiness, and also emptiness is the form. As we all know that Buddhism has its very famous philosophical category. The true truth is the ultimate truth and relative truth, which is a wonderful category. But then also they invite this profound teachings invite us to realize eventually that the ultimate truth is not separate from the relative truth, nor the relative truth is separate from the emptiness. Right? I think in the end, we kind of have to learn how to integrate the non-dual awareness with our life's experiences. Otherwise, we can be kind of lost in that, almost like some kind of state of mind, which is very wonderful.
Yeah. So the profound direct practice of Dzogchen, the premise that's so important and different than mind training or developing meditative states or even transformation in Mahayana, transforming negative into positive, that all is good and goes on. But the Dzogchen pointing out is that the awake consciousness is already here, and it's already who you've always been, and it doesn't need to be created or manufactured, that you can either rest into it or turn awareness around, have it look back, but then the key is that what recognizes awareness or what recognizes mind, unconditioned mind, is unconditioned mind. It recognizes itself. And that's lucid. It's empty, but it's also lucid, and it's arising as appearances. And because there's no fear, there's this unity or love that feels like we're part of everything. And that's where the love that's not just the usual love of, loving even your dog or a baby, it's not even that love. It's even wider and deeper and kind of the fabric of reality.
Yeah. You said perfectly. Sometimes the people can get really lost in some kind of non-dual mind or non-dual awareness, and if we are not very careful, it could be some kind of state of mind that is dissociated from reality. And it can be very wonderful place, blissful, seems everything's perfect. There's a sense of even ease in one's body and amazing relaxation in one's mind. And we can say, oh, this is the Rigpa, this is the whatever we like call the Buddha mind,
nirvana.
or
We have reached nirvana.
the soul or the nirvana. But then we do not know how to integrate that experience with all these situations or this nitty-gritty problems that happens in everyday life, just like the noise in my neighborhood an hour ago. So in the Dzogchen, therefore, they often talk about view, meditation, and conduct. I think conduct, in my understanding, is to really live that experience, not by running away from the situations, but by embracing all situations, either wonderful situations like this one, this interview, this dialogue is a wonderful situation to me. I'm enjoying it. I mean, like talking with you is so wonderful. But then, then I know this will come to an end. Then who knows? I may go out and see people are coming here and start cutting down trees. But that's a whole total different story. It would not be very interesting to me. It wouldn't be very favorable, because I don't like to see people cutting down trees, and also it makes so much noise. So anyway, I think the conduct in Dzogchen Kodab is our practice to not just be in such a wonderful non-dual state of mind, but to bring that and to engage with the world from that ground of consciousness, because otherwise I think we can kind of almost locked ourselves in that state of mind and becomes a little bit disconnected with reality. And that is what they call lamkikos in Tibetan, the pitfall of path, the mistakes on the path. Like I use this term often, the spiritual blind spot. And it happens quite often, more than I think people want. It happens quite often. And then let me come back to what you're saying beautifully about this whole experience of being in a Rigpa, but able to love everything. But that love is, of course, not ego-based love. Often love that people experience are kind of based on ego. Like even loving your pet is wonderful, but still there's a little bit attachment happen, which is totally okay. We don't have to reject it. But I think there are different levels. There's a transcendent level, and it's more than just the emotional love, but it's almost like where we don't have no more fear, and we're not so lost in this mental trap of a separation between self and other, and also we're no longer lost in a trap of this duality between divine versus ordinary, sacred versus secular. Instead, we kind of able to embrace everything in that non-dual recognition, in which that the sacred is actually secular. Secular is a sacred. Light is darkness. Darkness is light. So kind of we are able to basically embrace everything. I love this story by a very well-known Tibetan master, Lhasa Thangpa, who lived many centuries ago. He said he failed with his spiritual practice, especially when it comes down to his aspirations. And he said he always made a prayer that he will be able to help people in the hell. But then he said he came to this extraordinary awakening. There's no hell. So he said his prayers are failed. He said all he sees is everywhere is a Buddha realm, Buddha field. He saw the whole world, the whole universe is a sacred world, like Buddha paradise, like a Skavati or something like that. I think that's the love we are talking about here, transcendent love. You're able to basically embrace everything, not as this or that, good or bad or sacred, ordinary, but you're able to embrace everything as if they're expression of the same source, whatever we like call the ineffable or the Dharmakaya mind.
Yes. And so, one of the keys to that is our language gets in the way that, when we say, and then, then I say, and then you are able to embrace everything, but the you is not the you that was you. In other words, so our language is tricky as we try to share this with others. I know you and I are both people who share equally and try to feel like we're just traveling along together with all our people who listen to us or read our books. But that the key is that when you shift into Dharmakaya, that is the way that Dharmakaya perceives and sees. So you're not even doing it. What you're doing is resting as awake consciousness, bodhicitta, and then rest as bodhicitta. And then as bodhicitta, the view is everything is sacred and beautiful. And then I think in your recent book, we have something similar when you deal with chod, which is it's not only dealing with negative sounds in the neighborhood, but you even deal with all the negative things in society outside, the wars and things like that. And then, very importantly, it doesn't mean that you actually don't work with the negative demons inside or the parts of us that are angry or rageful or fearful or terrorized or mean or have hatred, that we recognize, yes, well, that's part of conditioning. Here it comes. So we're not trying to deny it, or even if we cut through to recognize nature of mind, we come back to love it back into health. So it's that relationship rather than splitting the world into negative emotions and negative, and then as if we've transcended them, that we actually have the capacity as the nature of mind to see and feel, the thawing out of all that pain and suffering. Yeah.
Right. The whole Vajrayana as a path is built upon this premise, no rejection. And therefore, it teaches us not to reject anything. And it teaches that in the end, that everything has the same flavor. And therefore, there's not so much heavy duality in many of those Eastern spiritual teachings between light and darkness. and divine and ordinary.
Yes.
That might not be true in some religious traditions. It seems that some religious traditions have really very strong, very heavy idea of this fundamental duality between light and darkness, or the divine versus the ordinary.
Yeah.
But in many Eastern spiritual traditions, such as Vajrayana, the separation between light and darkness is not that strong, actually. It's like almost teaches that they all come from the same source. And therefore, like, I'm glad you mentioned the shut. In the shut, the practice is all about cutting through the Mara. Mara is like the devil in Buddhism, except Mara is just an archetype. Is not really like some kind of evil supernatural being like a devil. It's just Buddhism used this very ancient idea of Mara, devil, as a archetype to illuminate certain parts of our psyche, let's say like greed or hatred or self-centeredness. But in truth, they always says that whenever Mara arises, whenever you feel that you're kind of lost in the either greed or self-centeredness, and then uh, they say, actually, in the end, if you look inside, you'll find that that Mara is actually not intrinsically bad. Mara is a discipline of the Dharmakaya mind.
Yes. Yes.
And therefore, the ultimate truth is not cut through anything, which is a kind of
Right. That's right.
very paradoxical, because truth means cut through, but ultimately, you don't have to cut through anything. Just having that recognition that everything that you're experiencing in the end is parts of the same source,
Yes.
the Dharmakaya mind or the consciousness. And they teach that with that recognition, sometimes we're able to experience whatever we're supposed to be experiencing in any given moment. I think anger is sometimes it's very natural. We're able to experience all of them, feel all of them, not rejecting them, but same time we're able to can't experience our own anger, not on the ground of ego, but
Yes.
on the ground of that whatever, like that recognition of the same flow of everything. Or maybe we're able to experience anger and fear
Yeah.
in that ground of pure awareness, egolessness. I saw recently some interview, and this interview is about what is happening in many different parts of the world. And this person is in words, and he said he has fear, but he's not afraid of, or something like
Yes.
that. He
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
fear, but he's not afraid of. I thought that's really good. Maybe does he practice Dzogchen or something like that? But it doesn't look like he's somebody who
That's
practices
right.
Dzogchen. He's a politician. But I guess we all have some kind of Dzogchen DNA
Yes.
or
Yes.
Vajrayana DNA that is awakened by itself when it is needed. I thought it
That's
was a
right.
really quite amazing statement.
Yeah.
You said, I have a fear, but I'm
Yeah.
not afraid.
That's right. Yeah. So that
So we can have
feeling,
fear, but we don't have to be lost in that. Yeah. Oh,
we don't
please
have
go
to
ahead.
be the fearer.
Be
So
lost in it.
yeah,
Yeah,
we don't have
right.
to
Yeah.
identify. So it's very similar to the kind of psychological integration I do in a contemporary way with Buddhism, is to recognize that there are these parts of us, these mind states that arise. Angry part, this part wants to forgive, this part doesn't want to forgive. Somebody has trauma that makes them feel worthless, and then there's a protective part that says, I hate everybody, don't mess with me. And they're all natural inner deities, inner parts of us that are just trying to find love and safety. And so when you realize that from the view of nature of mind and bodhicitta, the open-hearted awareness is what I sometimes call it, then I talk about sometimes shake and bake, that you have like a thawing out, or the energy will start to release of the anger and the fear, and then the love will just meet it and listen to it and allow it to be seen, and then it becomes part of the team. It becomes part of your whole body. It doesn't have to be isolated off, and we don't have to go into a mindful witness and just observe it or try to spiritually zap it away. Like, oh, there's anger. Oh, well, anger is just empty, and then it goes away too quick.
Yeah. Right. Yes. Yeah, I guess we have to feel what is happening in our body, in our stomach, in our chest, in our heart, in our mind too. It's so important to fully embrace whatever is happening, because all these are just part of life, and there's a reason why these forces are in each of us. Like anger has its own place in our life, and I think the whole point is not to reject anger or fear, but to hold them on the ground of the bodhicitta, the awakened awareness, and then without rejecting it, it will be processed by itself. It takes some time, but also I like what you said, that there's a way that we can just feel all these raw human emotions, but not to be lost in them. I think that is a skill that we all have to learn, and to be able to feel everything, but not to be lost in them. Whereas I suspect lots of spiritual people are really afraid of these kind of unholy human emotions like anger or whatever, jealousy. They're afraid of them, which is totally understandable. And so some people just try to suppress all these very kind of raw, messy human emotions. It's like they divide all human experience into the wholesome basket and unwholesome basket, and they are really afraid of experiencing anything that is from that unwholesome basket. You see, and here the invitation, other we're talking about it from Dzogchen point of view or Vajrayana point of view, is it to not run away from anything, to just welcome whoever is arising, just embrace all of them, but on the ground of bodhicitta, while we are totally residing that non-dual awareness, and then I think all our experience becomes a process of healing. Then it's not like we have to do some separate ritual for healing, which we can do, but I think when we do that, the healing is already happening.
Yes, that's right. That's beautiful. Yeah. So you have, I know one of the titles of one of your chapters in, I think it's Magic of Awareness, it says, enlightenment is ordinary human experience. So I think that is one of the most beautiful invitations to everyone, to not make it something esoteric or only for Olympic athletes of meditation or something, or monastics or something, but that just what you said, it almost requires us in this contemporary time that from the matrix, from the small ego mind and small mind, we can try to accept everything as it is and try to be more loving, and we can make some progress, but it's only in stepping out of the small mind, to the Rigpa based awake consciousness that has the view, and it's only by experientially glimpsing that, even small moments, small moments many times,
right?
That then you come back and feel the what was negative to the small ego. The small ego can't bear the fullness of negative emotions. We have to upgrade to Rigpa, awake consciousness, and then it can move, and then there's love for it, and there's more space.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of the healing, like when I say healing, I'm referring to more like psychological work. Lots of people are going through this whole process with healing by psychotherapy, mixed with also Buddhist practices like mindfulness. And they all have so much merit. We all have to appreciate all these practices, and practices are happening everywhere around us in today's world. But I think as long as we are engaging with the work, either healing or psychotherapy or spiritual practice, while we are firmly believing the matrix of duality, and while we are really holding on to that, there's me, me, the self, I'm doing this healing, I'm doing this spiritual practice. And if you don't really have the willingness to question that matrix, the matrix of duality, or this illusion of self, I think we could go through some amazing transformation.
Yeah.
But we are still kind of doing everything. We're still having all this mini enlightenment, healing in the
Relative world.
parameter or the matrix of duality or
Yeah.
the ego. So
That's
yes,
right.
I'm not saying that it has no benefit.
No.
Absolutely has lots of
A
benefit,
lot of benefit.
but it's
Yeah.
not really the real liberation. If we're able to bring that nondual dharma into our healing, our therapy, or into mindfulness meditation, I think the impact, the positive impact, will be just enormous. And so we kind of have to keep this conversation live. The conversation that we're having, it's
Yes.
the narrative of non-duality. We have to keep that alive
Yes.
all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, beautiful. So yeah, let's talk a little about, because I think you and I both use non-dual in a way that it's used almost in two ways, kind of like emptiness is used in two ways, but non-dual is used even within the tradition. Sometimes people will say, or translations will say, we go from conditioned mind to non-dual awareness or pure awareness. And some people will say, oh, pure awareness is non-dual awareness. But I like to use non-dual more as two truths, and non-dual awareness as the pure awareness Dharmakaya that has Sambhogakaya and Nirmanakaya, that has that is one taste. That's a non-dual means ultimate pure awareness is arising as relative experience and expressing as love. That's not two. So it's no longer dualism. So that I think is the kind of what I think is a Buddhist non-dual, but it's still used both ways, and some people get caught and think, oh, non-dual means just pure awareness rather than integration of pure awareness arising as phenomena and human and world. What do you say about that?
Yeah, right. I totally agree with you. We are on the same page regarding that. The non-duality, or whatever we like to call, is of course very much a big part of the traditional Buddhist doctrine. And I think it often has to do with not so much that we are asserting the relative truth and ultimate truth as a one, but more like we are transcending the duality between them.
Yeah.
So it's not so much we're saying, oh, everything's a one,
Right.
and that seems to be another kind of idea. But what we're doing is we're kind of transcending the separation between everything, relative truth versus ultimate truth, nirvana versus samsara, and the divine versus ordinary. So it's about transcending the separation more than anything else. Even though in the language, if we say, oh, all is one, and if we say nothing separate from each other, it sounds the same, but I think there's a very subtle philosophical indication between these two statements. So I believe in Buddhism is not so much we're saying that everything's one, but we're saying more there's no separation between anything. And at this point, the word non-dual dharma or non-dual teachings or non-duality or practice, the teachings, the nature of mind become almost some kind of spiritual term, like that describe whole genre of spiritual teachings and practices, which are not so heavily dogmatic, not so heavily dogmatic and not so much trapped in a really heavy concepts, doctrines, but that has a timelessness. And not only that, that invite us to really to go after the big liberation, not the small liberation, but go after the big liberation, which is to whatever you like call it, shake or deconstruct the very foundation of human neurosis and misery.
Yes.
I think when we say non-dual dharma, non-duality, we are kind of using that as a, in my understanding, a whole spiritual genre.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and I think I'm pointing to that sometimes when we make that first liberation, kind of like emptiness, if you go to negation, non-dual, oh, there's no separate self, we're beyond dualism, now we're in pure awareness, that can become a duality
Right.
too, as if there's pure
Absolutely.
awareness, and so it's the what is Flight of the Garuda, says that the non-duality is the awareness and appearance are not two.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if we really explain and purely the non-duality in the Buddhist sense, then what you said is perfect. It's more like transcending the separation between form, awareness, between everything,
right.
between
Everything.
pretty much any, between duality and non-duality,
yeah,
too,
and even
awareness.
And oneness and two-ness and anything.
Between awareness versus unawareness, just transcend all separations. So because I think human mind is very good at to create separations in sometimes a very subtle way. When I think I'm in the non-awareness, it's possible that I'm actually creating some kind of subtle separation, thinking, this is whatever, the non-dual zone, and everything else beyond it is the zone of duality, so I should not go there. You see, there's a subtle duality.
Yes, I like a meditation state. Yeah, I definitely feel that sometimes. Oh, I'm in the non-duality, and then I can either be a little too detached or a little too lovey-dovey, like hippie happy. Like, oh, everything's,
right.
A little too
exactly
too subtle energy, a little too much. Oh, yes, beautiful, everything's beautiful, and that the real heart. So that's what I want to kind of talk to you, because I think you're an expression, and you use that a lot. Is as you end up talking about Dzogchen and its expression, is you just said it just has a lot of heart. We're just in our heart. We see from our heart. And that heart with a capital H, that is not our biological heart, but is what do you what do you say when you have the heart mind view, or the sense of Dzogchen going all the way to heart? What would you say is important about including
let's use this analogy, like, which is to imagine that whole our spiritual process, the whole path, regardless of where we are, whether we feel we are at the very beginning, like spiritual kindergarten, or we are all the way there, we are teetering on the brink of some great enlightenment, or we're halfway through.
I think we're all halfway
it doesn't
through.
really matter. Yeah, right. Wherever we are on the spiritual journey. But I think one thing that we like to keep in our mind is this analogy. We don't have to keep this analogy literally, but this analogy, bird with two wings.
Oh, yeah.
And that the bird on Garuda can symbolize the whole our spiritual process, regardless of where we are. But that bird cannot really fly easily without one of the wings. And she needs the both wings, the right wing and left wing. And if she gets only one wing, she can't really get that far away. And similarly, I think spirituality in general has these two wings. So one is the mind or the wisdom, and another one is the heart.
Yeah.
And when there's imbalance between heart and mind, then somehow whole our spiritual journey has a limitation and doesn't really take us very far away from where we
Yeah.
are. And therefore, I think all the practitioners should just check and to kind of make sure that the balance is there, balance between heart and mind is there. And mind is more like this insight, and that can be something brought about increase and discernment. For example, it seems lots of the negation has to do with the mind, like the spiritual negations, like who am I, what is self, is this real or not, is there separation between me and my computer, or there's no separation, etc. There's no even a form. It's all just molecules. There's no really molecules, etc. Right?
Yeah.
they did this kind of analytical meditation in Buddhism. I think even the ancient Greek philosophers have a very kind of similar idea about
modern
question and
physicists too. Yeah.
and foundation of goodness. Of course. Yeah, absolutely. And it's very wonderful when you practice increase, eventually the whole our previous sense of reality began to collapses. This whole strong separation between self other collapses, and not only that, our ideas of right or wrong, and many of them can begin to collapse, and feels good, right? Can be feel really good, can be feel very liberated. But that whole liberation can have a very strong limitation, and it can be hijacked by ego, self-centeredness, because I can feel good. So if I feel good, then that's all I care, right? I feel good because it seems now I'm feeling that I'm free from all the chains of my own concepts. I guess life is much bigger, freer, and more spacious than I thought. This is great, right? And then how about compassion?
Yes.
And how about love? How about helping other people?
Yes, that's right.
And I think ego can hijack and that state of mind seems to be so much free from ego, but indeed it can be easily hijacked by ego, like selfishness. It's a form of a kind of divine selfishness, and therefore heart needs to be there always. And therefore, I think in the true awareness, heart is already there, because the true awareness it transcends all separation between relative truth and ultimate truth. And I one image that I like to use right now is the Avalokiteshvara, and the form of Avalokiteshvara is a perfect archetypal presentation of Rigpa, because Avalokiteshvara is a bodhisattva, and who is often depicted this form of a bodhisattva who has all these eyes and hands. Also in Tibetan, Avalokiteshvara is called Shamanism, and one who gazes upon everything means one who eyes wide open, and not only her eyes or his eyes are gazing upon what is beautiful, the light or the divinity of heaven, but his or her eyes are also gazing upon all this misery happening in the world, and looking gazing upon the swamp and like messiness and garbage pile, landfills, not always upon the heavenly gardens. And so then in that eye, which is a metaphor in this case, can actually embrace everything simultaneously. So in that awakening, there's a love, there's a devotion, there's a joy, there's an amazing enormous amount of, I think, fearlessness and compassion, courage, and that heart, that awareness actually sometimes, propel us to take certain actions to help others.
Yeah, the conduct piece. So that,
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, it naturally leads to the realization of the wisdom, and the heart lead to expression and conduct, and like many bodhisattvas. Like, people don't have to be just a Buddha bodhisattva. Everyone can be a little bodhisattva. Just
Right.
as soon as you live, as soon as you take action toward others from true, authentic heart, you see that it's you, and you have the capacity to be with suffering. I know one of the Buddhist sayings is that the human birth is perfect because it provides awakening is spurred on by suffering. So it almost requires, like with Chod, it's if we were a little too in just animals, that had it too easy, we might not awaken. We might stay in the matrix, right? Like like the movie. Everyone just going along in everyday life. But because of the suffering, it's like fire. It spurs us on. Isn't there something else? We try to, comfort ourselves, but we always have this low level, sometimes the word for suffering, dukkha, is translated as perpetual dissatisfaction. So just that existential background, no matter what you do, you have nice food, you're with friends, you make success, and then it's like, something's wrong still. What's that? Because we're out of touch with our true nature, which is available and is the only thing that gives us this relief. But that the suffering is to be embraced and important from the heart. Yeah.
Absolutely. The idea of nirvana is the end of suffering, and of course there could be a different way of understanding what that means. Exactly, the end of suffering. Really, should we take that literally? And by saying that as a purely period, like this, periodically, really just up to the end of suffering. Well, there are different ways of interpreting the nirvana, but it seems as far as we humans are concerned, I think we humans beings are designed to be enlightened. That is our ultimate purpose of life, whether some people may actually may not bring that vocation into their life. And I guess there are people in the world who are kind of a little bit maybe unaware of and that aspect of life. But I believe that we human beings are designed to be enlightened. We are here to become enlightened. I feel that sometimes this human world is a kind of giant monastery, some kind of spiritual university, and we're all spiritual students. Either we can recognize that or not. And we're here, yes, we are here to survive, no doubt. We're here to enjoy life, good food and nice weather. But it's a more than that. I think we are here also to become enlightened, at least as a very vocation of life, and to become enlightened. Well, and on the other hand, Dzogchen teaches that we're already pure. Our true nature is Buddha, Samantha, primordial Buddha. But then that is said, same time, we are not enlightened. On the other hand, we are enlightened, but we're not enlightened. Our true nature is enlightened, but many people are not enlightened. Yeah, we are not fully enlightened. And therefore, now there's kind of process of becoming enlightened because we are not enlightened. And if we're already enlightened, then there won't be any process, right? There won't be any spiritual path. And nobody will be suffering in the world. But that is a totally utopian, because we kind of have to remind ourselves that we're here to become enlightened, which requires whole process and whole journey. So it's
Yes.
kind of really
It's a
it's very
paradox. Yeah.
interesting, kind of some kind of cosmic paradox.
Yeah.
And therefore, but the way we become enlightened is often through dukkha, through challenges,
Yeah.
difficulties. And if there are no suffering, imagine that our life is totally just freed from all anything that irritate us, that
Yeah.
discomfort us. Imagine that we're all born without any trauma. We're all born with just perfect body and perfect
Yeah.
neurological makeup. And we just are born in this beautiful garden, and everybody has access to some huge trust fund, and and everyone is just a
That's
happy like angel. I I I I don't think that there's no need of spirituality, right?
no, that's
So,
right.
but
Although
that's not who we
I
are.
the world is a like a monastery, but I think it's a tantric monastery with a lot of crazy yogis.
Yeah, right.
Because
So we
it's
need
not,
the
it's not a very restrictive
yeah.
monastery. Everyone's all over the place. But I wanted to say that
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, that I always play with that paradox that we're always awakeness and always unfolding. So we're already always awake and we're always unfolding. And there was Suzuki Roshi had a saying. He said, "You're perfect just the way you are, and you could use a little improvement."
Exact, just like that. We are enlightened in some sense, but
Yeah,
on the other hand, we are not enlightened. Both, we're both, right?
yeah, that's right.
I guess I like the idea that we are. What did you say? We are.
Always,
Uh,
always awake, and always unfolding.
yeah, we're always unfolding.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're always unfolding, best. We're always moving towards the awakening,
yes,
even though our
that's
true
right.
nature is already enlightened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah. So one last thing, just to say that yeah, just as encouragement for those who are listening. That so in your sharing with others, are you seeing and having hope that people, Westerners that come and you meet, are starting to have glimpses of awakening? That you see some potential and some actual initial awakenings happening, and what is it that you see? Like, what is it that seems to be helping people?
Yeah. I'm very hopeful in many ways for the world, for the humanity, which may sound really a strange proclaim
Mm.
regarding what is happening right now in the world, because it seems the world is really descending right now
Right, right.
with all this catastrophe, war,
Mm.
climate change. But I'm very hopeful, and sometimes this almost like awakening of collective comes in the middle of the most painful
Mm.
events that can happen too. So I'm just praying that through this all pain and just unbelievable suffering that so many people are going through in the world, so many
Mm.
millions of people are going through suffering right
Mm.
now.
Mm.
And also we are at this crossroad where lots of our old structures like cultural values, institutions are kind of, if they're not collapsing, they're challenged,
Mhm.
and which is good, right? Some of these old ways served the humanity for quite a long time, but
Mm.
maybe now it's time for us to say goodbye to them
Uh-huh.
and to create a more enlightened structure that benefit everybody. And so I'm hopeful in the end. I want to see this as a dark path to the light. And I want to see this as like a mud. We're in the mud, but this mud is preparing for a giant lotus to blossom. That's what I like to see. So I'm hopeful, but also perhaps what we really need in the Western world is like more this narrative, this nondual narrative, and I hope that people will have more access to these teachings, like such as a Dzogchen, and in that way, I think not just few people, but at least a large portion of the population in the West would be interested in this kind of non-dual teachings. And I see that so many people in the West are experiencing very authentic awareness, whatever I call some kind of authentic awakening. When I say awakening, I do not mean like the nirvana. I use the word awakening as some kind of spiritual opening in one's consciousness. I see all the time so many people in the West are having this authentic spiritual awakening. But on the other hand, there's one problem in the West, and I don't know if we can even fix it. That in the West, we are very individualistic, right? We just want to do what we want to do, and so when spiritual teachers said the neurosis of North Americans is a yes, but or something like that.
That's good. Yes, that's the
So
mantra.
we're kind of individualists. We like to hear teachings if it feels good. If our ego agrees, but we can tend to sometimes reject any kind of wisdom teachings if our ego doesn't like that.
Right.
And so it just could be my own mind too. Maybe there isn't any problem. It just could be my own mind. I may change my mind by tomorrow morning, but this is what I'm feeling. Because in the East, we emphasize devotion. We talk about devotion to the lineage, devotion to the Buddha. And when I look back, and there's a lot of merit in that whole practice of devotion. Devotion is very intelligent, actually. It's intelligent. Because devotion has this wisdom that we should not buy into our ego all the time. That to me is a devotion.
Yes, I mean, I would love because you're having, heard you give a Dharma talk and a meditation and a prayer and a chant. I think that your chanting kind of brings everything together. You like just what you said about devotion. It has a quality of like you're a light that opens up and people can feel it. I could see it in the room when I was there with you. And I wonder if you might either say a prayer or a short chant as a way to kind of finish our time together here.
Oh, thank you for the invitation to chant. You're right. Sometimes just chant is sacred song. It just relaxes our body and quiet our mind. It takes us to what you might call the inner oasis. Om Yedharma Hetu Prabhava Hedende Shan Tatang Goto Haryavadete Shan Chayo Nirodeo Bada Mahasharamanaye Swaha. Shancho Samcho Rinpoche Marche Pranam Kikireji Jiba Nyamba Mepaya Kuni Kondan Pervaraho Zobi Shancho Debala Shidan Nangun Sawaya Varta Chupa Tamchak and Yava Juram Zat So Asha Samaha Asha Sama Asha Sama Asha Sama Asha Samaha.
Emaho.
Thank you.
Beautiful. So thank you so much. It's been such a joy. I'm so grateful to have met you and be able to talk like this and kind of jump right into a deep Dharma dialogue.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you for being my Dharma friend. I'm so happy to see you right now here. And thank you for all the work you're doing.
Thank you so much. Okay, bye now. And now here's a short mindful glimpse. Let's do dropping from head to heart space, just because I think it's one of the core practices, and it's kind of for inner doorway types of people. And it's a good way to show the reason why we're moving local awareness, because we're moving from head mind to heart mind to embodied consciousness, and then this boundless heart space, which is safe and interconnected with everyone. So let's try that. So starting with, again, and this is one of the main practices of kind of a version of mindfulness is, the first practice of mindfulness is often one-pointed attention, which reinforces the attender or the focuser. But then the second practice of mindfulness is mindfulness of the four foundations: thoughts, feelings, sensations. So it establishes kind of a step back witness consciousness. But what we're doing is we're really trying to get a feel for, like, okay, while the small mind, while the focuser, while the thinker's focusing, step back, while the manager's in charge, just can you be aware of that's where you've been looking from? Like you have to step back a little bit, or step up a little bit, or feel the where you're normally aware from, that is the subject. You've got to just find the felt sense and location of it as an object. Yeah. So you can feel that identification, that attachment, that natural tendency to go back when thoughts and sound comes to the thinker, and sights come to the thinker, and then thought goes to thought, and then awareness goes to thought, and then it creates this strange loop of constellation of consciousness that feels like, oh, this is me in here, in between my eyes, and below me is this body that I'm moving around, but I'm here actually, and I'm seeing, and I'm judging, and so that self-awareness and those different parts will sit in that seat that's in this location. So that's our decentering. But when we decenter, we want to know where we're going, so that we go to the key is, in this approach, direct approach, is we're going to the solution as quickly as possible, then come back to deal with the problems. So rather than renouncing things in order to simplify, or healing everything psychologically, we're like upgrading or discovering the capacity that can bear what seems unbearable, that which has capacity of intelligence and love, and then come back to exactly how things are. So let's try that. All right. So find that feeling of being identified or attached to the thinker, the hearer, the understander. And then the key is the doer is not making awareness unhook. Awareness is actually moving itself. So you could ask permission, could you give me some space, which is kind of a relational, but then awareness has to open. So feel the attached, identified, blended, meshed, And then feel as if awareness has intentionality and can simply unhook and step back. Be aware of space from space. So feel the location change, the contracted feeling change, the content, the thought-oriented, and then the new quality of openness, space. And then feel as if that awareness is both non-local, could open up this way like we did, or while open can focus. So the awareness can remain open and also drop to be aware of your smile and your jaw directly from within, just feeling the sensation, vibration, curiously feeling without judging or analyzing anything, just effervescent aliveness, space, and location of knowing and known. And then feel as if awareness, using its own intentionality somehow, which may not be clear that that's what's happening, but just feel curiously that awareness is dropping itself, moving itself down to be aware of your throat, from within your throat. And just resting within, so there's direct perception. Just notice if there's a habit to look back up to the mind to see, am I doing it right? Or kind of flip around and start looking down. Those two habits are the two normal habits, but just simply start again, unhook, drop, and know directly from within. Just begin to feel your body from within your body, as if your whole body is a field of presence. And then feel this local globe of awareness drop below your neck into your upper body. And just feel your whole body from within. Down your shoulders, arms, hands, back, down your waist, guts, trunk, pelvis, down your legs, knees, shins, feet into the ground. Just fully embodied all at once as the local awareness inhabits and knows your body as a mostly space, then energy, then water, then form, matter, different gravity, solid space. And then let that awareness again move to find a safe space in the middle of your body, this heart space, so that it's like a resting place or a doorway or a centerless center that finds that you can let your awareness feel like this is what you're aware of and where you're aware from. So just let the awareness go deep within this river of awareness of life, this space within the atoms, to the subtlest dimension of consciousness. Bodhicitta, heart, mind, awake consciousness. Just letting go and letting be. And just feeling this home in the heart space. When you feel subtle hearts begin to feel safety or love or joy and also the lack of limits or boundaries. So you may feel this openness to this boundless heart, to this emptiness of individual thingness, which means interdependence or interconnectedness. So the ultimate reality and the safety, the real place to find safety and freedom is in this subtlest dimension of interconnectedness. Open-hearted awareness, resting, alert, awake, aware of this heart space, aware from this heart space, as if you're aware of the awareness that has your back. So rising as your body and looking through the eyes of your heart. So your eyes are receiving, coming to the field of awareness. Ears are receiving, coming to this field of awareness. Thinking is in the field, just like mental sensations with no interest in thoughts or sentences, just feeling the alert curiosity, trust, potential to know. If you needed to know. So taking a little deeper breath, letting a smile come to your face, letting your eyes smile, your ears smile. What does that feel like if your whole, every cell in your body can receive and feel relieved of this rest and this natural aliveness that doesn't need to solve a problem or be afraid now of anything because you're connected to everything. There's no other, just now on this level. So that from here you can respond to any issues or situations or parts of you that need your care. So from here, staying home, letting your phone number arise to your heart mind. And letting it go to peace of mind. Just see what it's like to rest at home in your heart space and let your office of your head be poured back into the field. So it's available with this implicit memory as needed.